an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Unspoiled, covering Doctor Who, Season 3, Episode 8, 42. In this episode, I think I'm not alone in saying I hoped this was going to be a Hitchhiker's Guide themed episode. However, it was a angry son mad at people episode, which that's pretty solid. I'm alright with it. I loved this episode, weirdly. Yeah, welcome to Unspoiled. Welcome to the show, everybody. I am Natasha.
I'm Jamie.
So, yeah, I definitely thought, like, as soon as I saw 42, I was like, oh, shit. Okay, they're going to do... But no, that had nothing to do with it at all.
No.
I was very surprised. Because that's a very famous number.
Yeah.
You know? It's an odd choice to name an entire episode after that and then have it just not, you know...
No,
that's like
Arthur
me naming
Dent.
an episode The One Ring or something,
Right?
and then it turns out to be like a carburetor, something that's like just totally not.
It's a boxing ring.
Yeah, you know, or something like the jump ring on her necklace got pulled off. Like, I don't know. Just...
I really would not be mad at any character from Hitchhikers showing up on the show.
It feels like the show that would happen on.
Yeah.
That's really like, once I thought, I was a little bit like, oh, and then I thought about it as I was like pressing play, and I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense, actually. This might be fun.
Doesn't the Doctor say something about Arthur Dent in a previous episode, too?
Does he?
I think he does.
I don't know.
I think he says something about, as if it's a real person. He, like, references him.
That's pretty fun. I like that.
Have you seen the movie?
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't like it?
I did not like it at all.
I love it.
I'm unsurprised. You and I tend to like very different things. Like, there are times where we both agree on stuff, but a lot of the time we do not.
Yeah. To be fair, most people I know, especially people that have read the book a lot when they were younger or before the movie came out, weren't huge fans of that movie, but I find it really campy and hilarious. And I mean, Sam Rockwell is just a force. I love him in that movie. I don't know. I love it. Plus, they turned into yarn and then puked up yarn, and it made me laugh harder than almost anything.
Oh my god. I forgot about that part.
It made me laugh
Jamie.
so hard, I like cried. It was
all right,
so
you know
dumb.
what? I'm just going to move on. So, this episode starts off with the catching of a distress signal, and they land the TARDIS inside another ship. And when they open the doors, it is hot as balls. Mm-hmm. And we find out very quickly that this ship has, for some reason, has been sabotaged to head straight for the nearest sun.
Did this beginning part or any of this episode remind you of the Forgotten Planet and Satan Pit?
Satan Pit a ton, for
Yeah.
sure. Like, once I realized exactly what was going on, I was a lot more on board because it started off so much like Satan Pit that at first I was just kind of like, are we just doing this again? Like, what the hell?
Yeah, it seems like it's almost like a rehash.
Yeah. So I think I just really like the fact that this is happening to the Doctor. I think that's what pushed it over into me liking this one a lot more than Satan Pit. Is the Doctor is the one that like gets possessed by this thing and is really out of his element and freaking out and failing, and generally he's always like in control, and he starts off very in control and ordering people around, and, you know, the rest of the crew is very rightfully like, who the fuck are you? And then when he gets sort of knocked off his feet with that, I was on board with it. I just really need him to be not top dog all the time. Mm-hmm. It's fine if he is most of the time, you know, but it just gets to a point where it's like, I know that you're going to have the answer, or this thing is going to be a thing that you have seen and recognized, and it's not going to be any surprise to you the way it's a surprise to literally everybody else. And that can get a little bit tedious. And so for him to have come to this ship and people, like, there's something happening that he does not understand, he's trying to, and even when it starts to happen to him, it's like there's only so much to be done before he's, you know, like, I don't know what would even happen to him. Would he recover from something like that? Could he regenerate after being, like, burned from the inside?
Well, yeah, because the regeneration is like a failsafe to keep him alive. He would just have a new body. Okay.
Because, like, I'm sort of picturing it as he dies, and then whatever, like, possessed him is, like, hanging around. It just repossesses his new body. But I guess that's not necessarily true.
I don't know. I hadn't really thought about it. Because I thought, like, well, he could regenerate, but I never really thought about, like, maybe it would still attach itself to that same energy that he uses to rebuild a new body.
So he's just, like, regenerating and burning to death and regenerating and burning to death in an endless loop for the rest of time. That'd be a pretty big bummer, huh?
Yeah. That would really suck.
That's like a Greek myth. So, yeah, that fact and that Martha just has a lot more to do. Like, what goes on with Rose and Satan Pit is she, like, is trying to escape, and there's somebody who has, like, snuck on, and there's this whole other thing. With Martha, it feels a lot more proactive the whole time, you know? Like, she's got this other job to do. Things wind up going badly, and she gets ejected in that pod, but it's not her leaving or planning on, like, it's just him
not
watching
like
her
Rose.
go and no control over it on his part either, you know?
Yeah, it's not like with Rose where they, like, tricked her or knocked her out or whatever to get her on that escape ship.
Yeah.
At the end. You know, Martha was in that pod for a different reason, right? And then the ship ejected it.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly how this went. Because they were, like, solving those weird puzzles, the pub quiz puzzles, basically, to open the doors. And I feel like there was something that, like, led them into this pod, and it was supposed to be that they were, like, running away from the dude who tried to come at them. What's his name? Corwin. Because he, like, sneaks up on them. So I think it's supposed to be that they run in there to... excuse me, goodness. That it was, like, the nearest door, and he was attacking them, and they just ran in without really realizing, and then boom, yeah. So, yeah, there was just a lot more about the way this was structured, and the way that the doctor is affected by it and doesn't get to just sit on the sidelines and be the hero all the time, that I really liked. I feel like it's almost like somebody saw Satan Pit and they were like, listen, no. And they wrote a better one. You know?
Yeah, because there are, like, weird little similarities. Like, the TARDIS lands inside of a compartment, and then they can't access it. And then there's, like, Martha getting separated from the Doctor the way Rose got separated from the Doctor. And, and this ship that is in a place it shouldn't be. But otherwise, like, the other details made it its own story.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like you said, when they come in and there's a crew that's like, what are you doing here? And they're in the middle of an emergency, and the ship, the TARDIS, is like something that they can't access anymore. I really, for a minute, was like, oh my God, this is like the same exact thing.
Mm-hmm. They also originally thought about having the Ood on this ship as well.
Oh my God.
Which really would have been too much.
Yeah, it would.
And they decided not to in the writing of it, that it wasn't, they didn't want to have to show this race of creatures being basically enslaved again.
Mm-hmm. I think that's smart. We would appreciate you not doing that. So, all right, backing up, because like this, they immediately are told there is 42 minutes before we wind up hitting the sun. Which, like, let's be honest here, guys. First of all, I think we all know that if you're 42 minutes away from the sun, you're dead already. That's fine.
It made me think of Sunshine. Have you seen Sunshine?
No.
The Danny Boyle movie?
Mm-mm.
It's fucking fantastic. It's Chris Evans and a few other people, and it goes a little off the rails towards the end, but ultimately, like, it's a really smart sci-fi story about a ship that is going towards the sun. And like the most impressive thing about it was the way they designed this ship and how it would protect itself from that kind of heat. And how close they actually could or could not get because of the, their heat protection was only going to work for so long.
Right.
It's really interesting. I know you said at the top of this that we have different tastes in movies, which does tend to be true a lot of the time, but I would highly recommend it. It's a really good movie.
All right. Well, Sunshine is the name of a book that somebody commissioned me to cover for Spoiler.
Yeah, I thought
so
maybe...
For a second, I was like, what?
When you started doing that, I was like, is Sunshine based on a novel? And then I read the description. I was like, totally different things.
Yep. Yeah, Sunshine is a vampire book, but it was super fun and way different than most vampire books. So highly recommend if you're somebody who likes your vampires scary, because these are not to be trifled with.
Interesting.
Vampires. But yeah, so like right there, they're so close that I can't, like, my immediate thought was like, yeah, no, you'd be dead. But that's fine. I'm just going to ignore that. But also naming the episode 42, because that's how many minutes, why would you do that? You have all these sun puns that you could dig into. Why would you leave them there and just name it 42?
What are your sun
puns? Which is a famous number. I don't know, like... you put me on the spot here, Jamie. We could just name it Sun Pun. How about that? Just really get a little meta with it.
The Doctor does name check Here Comes the Sun.
Oh, God.
When he's talking about the Beatles. It's 42 because there's 42 minutes, but also there's 42 minutes of runtime in the episode. So it's basically supposed to be the kind of episode that is happening in real time.
I mean, yeah, that's not a good enough reason, though.
It's not, but that is the reason they gave. That it's kind of like 24, which also, like, does not run in real time, but...
We could do, like, The Heat Is On. We could do, wow, I was about to say, like, Miami Heat or something. How funny would it be if they named it, like, after a friggin' city in the United States, like, in space? That would make no sense. Yeah, I don't know. Just, there's all kinds of things. I'm sure if we continued this, we could spitball a bunch of stuff. But anyway.
The Heat Is On is good, though.
The Heat Is On, baby.
That's the new name of this episode.
Yay. The heat is... I like that part. So, okay. They are... kind of, this crew is a little bit useless. Like, they're all just throwing their hands up like, well, guess we're dying. Guess we'll just sit here for 42 minutes and reflect on how there's nothing we could do. And the Doctor is getting real irritated with this one guy who just has that sort of defeatist attitude immediately. And starts to ask them the obvious questions, which is, there's like, they need to get in and repair the engines. And there's, like, backup engines that are in another section of the ship that they don't have access to because they're behind, like, 28 different locked doors that don't have any, like, fail-safes to override them. So he proposes that they go and check that out and find out how they're going to open up these doors. And it turns out that the doors aren't like, there's not just like a 4-digit code that you type in that somebody memorized and wrote on a sticky note somewhere. These are actual questions, which is wonderful. I really wanted them to do a little bit more with this, to be honest. I loved this idea. Puzzles. Yes. You know?
Yeah.
So the first one, find the next number in the sequence. 313, 331, 367. And the answer the doctor gives is, what is it? You said the crew knew all the answers. The crew's changed since we set the questions. He says 379. It's a sequence of happy primes. 379. Happy what? And he's just like, oh my God, will you just enter it? But then his explanation. Any number that reduces to 1 when you take the sum of the square of its digits and continue iterating until it yields is a happy number. Any number that doesn't, isn't. That is both a happy number and a prime number. Don't they teach recreational mathematics anymore? What on earth? Please, anybody who knows math, is this a thing? Because
I would like to know as well.
I want to know, and I'm not going to look it up because I bet you the answer is going to be so fucking complicated that I won't understand if it's even a yes or a no. So just go ahead and spoon feed me the answer, and I will really appreciate that. But this delighted me. Don't they teach recreational mathematics anymore? What? I'm all right with it. Please don't. Please don't start teaching that. I would rather not.
No, just required math was enough with me.
Same.
I do not like a lot of learning comes very easily to me, but with numbers, it's like my brain just locks up and decides I'm not going to understand this. So I have to work a lot harder at it, and that's frustrating to me. Mm-hmm. So I always say, like, I'm bad at math. I don't know if I actually am or not. I just know it doesn't come easily to me, and so it frustrates me more than learning other things.
Yeah, my brain is weird. Like, when I was first learning algebra and all of that, I was, like, the top of my class with it, with this one particular teacher. And then when I left his class, I could not fucking get a hold of it again.
Yeah.
It was like how he taught it just really connected in my brain. And after that, it was like complete gibberish.
I had an algebra teacher in college who was the same way. I never understood algebra, but I had to take it in college. And he made it make sense. He put it into real world examples. And that like clicked in my brain, and I ended up getting a B in that class, which is the highest I've ever gotten in algebra. And only like I got a B in geometry too, because geometry also just made sense to me. And then I left that class and forgot all of it.
Yeah.
I don't even remember like the examples he would give, and Jason understands algebra really well, and he'll talk about like, no, this, and I'm like, you might as well be speaking another language.
Yeah, I barely got by with a C in the next class, but like the final exam that he gave, there was a bonus question, and I got the entire exam with no mistakes and got the bonus question, so I got 106%
wow.
on the final exam. But yeah, after that, it was just like, nope. The only time I ever like got top of the class again was a complete accident wherein God smiled upon me. And I'll never forget this. I had, you know, when you realize that you're about to fail this test and you like can't even read the paper because you're panicking so bad that things seem to be like practically moving around on the page in front of you. You ever have that?
No, I don't really have test anxiety, so.
This was one of those like, I think I'm going to either burst into tears or throw up. Like, I'm so agitated right now because none of this is making any sense to me. So, I had studied. That was the part that killed me, was that I had really, like, taken time the night before. And I went through this bubble test with the multiple choice and just filled them in at random. I just was like, I handed it in and I was like shaking and sweating because I figured like, who the fuck knows what just happened. And I came to pick up my results like 2 days later, still kind of like the sweating, shaking came back. And my teacher says to me, "Oh, you got a 92. You got the highest score in the class."
Oh my God.
And I almost like, I just gave him this look and went, "I did?" And he went, "Well, you studied, right?" And I just had to be like, "Yeah," because I had studied, but that had nothing to do with my score at all. Like,
was it math?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was never brave enough to just like fill in. I always forced myself to like try at just.
I didn't do it until it was like there was 15 minutes left
Yeah.
and I was still on question 3. It was like a complete panic reaction. And I have never done that before or since. But it was just like I tried so, and it was the sort of thing that I was doing my, like, showing my work on the side paper. And I kept coming up with answers that weren't even one of the 4 options.
Oh my God, I hate that so much.
Mm-hmm. And I was just looking at it like I'm doing something so wrong that this possibility hasn't even occurred to him to offer up as an answer. So what the fuck am I even doing? Like, yeah, that sort of thing.
Oh my God.
So anyway, math is terrible. Like, I know that it's not, but it just, it's a frenemy. Mm-hmm. That's what it is. So, okay. Anyway, they are going into the next question section. And they are asked who had the most number 1 hits. Mm-hmm. And was it Elvis or the Beatles?
Did we talk about Corwin at all between, because don't we meet him before that?
Yeah, we do. I forgot about that because he's in the middle of starting to like, he had already gone into this weird state, but he hasn't quite woken up again by this point.
Yeah,
he starts moving.
He's having a seizure. Mm-hmm. And the doctor goes to sickbay to like, I don't know why the doctor ever does doctory things because he's not actually a doctor. But
maybe it's just because everybody else seems to expect it and he feels like he has to give them some reason to know to like call him doctor, so he's just going to do his best.
Well, he also usually can, through context, like kind of figure out what actually is going on with the person.
Right.
But yeah, this dude's like having a seizure and they put him in a stasis chamber.
Which he is very delighted by. Ooh, stasis chamber. Nice.
And then he's like yelling about how it's burning him and the doctor sedates him, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty rough. He can't even open his eyes.
Yeah.
Which we find out later there was something going on there. But then he starts to like come back to himself. And that one doctor that's in there with him, that the first one that gets burned, mm-hmm. she is in Sherlock as the woman who does not like Sherlock.
Oh, really?
Who calls him a psychopath and tells John Watson to stay away from him because he tries to solve murders, but someday solving them isn't going to be enough. Someday he's going to be the one that we're looking for, is what she says.
Does she play a cop?
Mm-hmm. Huh. She's a like deputy inspector. Mm-hmm. She's like second in command for Lestrade. Is that his name? Yeah. Well, anyway, but yeah. So I like as soon as she pops up, I was like, why am I feeling like, who are you? Why are you here? And then I realized that it was her because I was mad at her still for that. Even though she turns out to not be entirely wrong, but for reasons that are different than we thought. But anyway, so yeah, this dude is out here like starting to show signs of life again. And he's this dude that's with Martha, who is super fine, Mr. Riley.
Yeah, Riley.
Has no idea what the Beatles or Elvis is. Like, he says the Beatles in this way, like he's reading another language. It's pretty fun.
And they're considered classical music.
Bless them. Have you seen that in Futurama, where Fry puts on, "My anaconda don't want none unless you've got buns, hun." And outside, Leela's like, Fry, will you turn down your classical music? We're trying to work out here. It's just one of those like dumb jokes that I thought was so funny the first time I watched that show. So he doesn't know the answer. The doctor starts to give him an answer and then takes it back and then says and then takes it back. And he is not confident in his response. So Martha decides that she's going to call her mom, which I feel like there's any number of people that I would rather call for this than my mom, because we know what she's going to do. And that is exactly what she does, which is express her disappointment that her daughter hasn't been returning her calls, tell her that the doctor is dangerous and that she should stay away from him, try and engage her on that rather than answering the question that she is being asked, and returning her request for help with, you have a computer, why don't you just look it up? Which I could have told you would happen, Martha. Just call your sister.
Right?
Just do us all a favor and call your brother. You know
Yeah.
what? Your brother seems to really just like be willing to give you all kinds of benefits of the doubt. So just call him up and, but instead, this is when we see that there is some other shit going on in this place.
Mm-hmm.
Her mother is working with some people because her mind has been poisoned by Mr. Saxon. And if there's one part of this whole, story that I think has the most holes in it, it's the idea of a black woman trusting a shadowy government agency with a bunch of white people who are very sinister in sunglasses being like, we'll take care of it. Don't worry about it. All right. But she is apparently just really worried about Martha and seems to think that Martha's rudeness on the phone is due to bad influence from the doctor, which, you know what? He is a rude man.
Yep.
So maybe that's not totally off the mark. Oh, God. But yeah, these people are taking her phone because I guess they're going to try and figure out where the call came from. It looked initially like they were tracing it.
Yeah. The initial call that we see, they were tapping her phone and trying to figure out where Martha's calling from. And then later on, they take her phone. I'm not sure why.
Yeah, that was my, I guess it's just if they can't get the information that they need with the tapping, that they're hoping that they can, find something from within the phone itself?
I guess, but that doesn't, I don't know how that would actually work, considering that the phone that Martha called from is her own phone that he upgrades. At the beginning, we see it's a Razor.
Oh my God, is it? I didn't even notice that.
And
I wish it was pink.
It wasn't pink. But I recognized the buttons. I was like, oh, it's a Razor phone. And he just uses the sonic screwdriver and turns it into a, intergalactical phone. You can use it anywhere.
Intergalactical. Indeed.
So yeah, I don't know what their plan is, how you can take, you're not going to get anything from the phone itself. Mm-hmm. Get the records.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so, but
yeah, I don't know.
I don't know how this shit works. I wouldn't think that you'd be able to tap a cell phone either. That's not something, whenever I think tapping, I figure that it's a, through the phone lines sort of sourcing. But I would always assume that if you are trying to get information about where a call is coming from, you would have to go to the cell phone record and provider information.
And even then, if you look back at the court case that was on that podcast, Serial, they were only able to access where his phone pinged calls from. They were trying to figure out if he was in the location where the body was found in the time that that the girl went missing. And they had to it was all new technology in 99. So they were able to get the cell phone pinged this certain tower, but that wasn't conclusive enough to say he was or he wasn't at any point nearby this park where her body was found. And I think about that stuff like you're right, you're limited. And I think it's probably different now because everybody has cell phones now. Like hardly anybody has a landline, so what are you going to tap? They have to find a way to tap our actual cell phones.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
But even still, you can tap someone's phone. That doesn't mean you can determine where the person calling, that's tracing. And how could you trace it if she's clearly out of area?
Right.
Like
maybe she's not for them. Maybe
millions
they have the
of
technology.
years in the future.
Maybe Mr. Saxon's an alien.
Maybe.
What if Mr. Saxon's another Time Lord and he's trying to track down his lost brethren? What if he... Ooh, I like that. Or he could be a Dalek that has them.
Oh.
Like, he's the Dalek.
Maybe
the other... What do you call it?
The other lonely race.
Well, no, like, I'm trying to think of what it was when they combined the human Dalek. What did they call it?
I don't think they called it anything, did they?
I thought that they
called it like a hybrid.
A hybrid. That's
okay.
the word I want. Ugh. Duh.
What if it's a Cyberman?
Oh, God. I'll be so disappointed. I never want to see them again. The only time I want to see a Cyberman is when I see a Dalek yelling at the Cyberman. That's my favorite.
Still one of my favorite things that ever happened too.
So good. I giggle just thinking about it. Delete, exterminate, delete, exterminate. It's so good.
Genius. I'm trying to think of what else we've seen that it could possibly be. But those are the real big baddies that we've come across that keep recurring.
Yeah, I guess that's true. We need the Ood to come take them out. Free themselves.
That would be strange. They seem not so... I guess they could be really angry now that they were destroyed. Not saved, but... They don't seem like the type to be like, I'm going to take over the world. Yeah,
no. They would be like... basically doing our dirty work by defending us, which I don't want either.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking about how the Daleks' human hybrid had dicks on its face. But if there was a human Ood hybrid, I hope that it wouldn't have the same effect.
Oh my God. That would be so disturbing to see all those little wiggly things on the face.
What if they turned into like fingers and there were like little fingernails on the ends of all of them? It'd be so weird.
Is that better or worse than dicks on the head?
It's better if they're like, I don't know. It all depends on like, do they just like sort of hang limply like on the Ood, or do they move around weirdly like they do on the fucking Dalek human? Because that was the thing that disconcerted me, was their like little dick jumps that they made.
Look, they can't help it. Sometimes it just happens.
Oh my God. I'm sorry. I have Apple News like on my phone. Do you have that where it just like pops up a thing, like a little alert?
I don't have notifications for that.
Okay. I'm just going to put that away. You'll see later on. So they find out that this dude killed Abby because she was in the middle of calling for help when he came at her.
He just vaporized her.
He fucking has his like white hot eyes and says, "Burn with me." And I was like, you know what? That's a pretty freaky thing to say, actually. Yeah. Like, again, with the differences on this and the Satan Pit, how much scarier is this? Like, just saying "burn with me" and these people literally they're like a human shell, but there's nothing else about them that, like, they are exuding this heat and light that is eating them up from the inside. That is really messed up.
Yeah.
And the fact that he like opens his eyes and just the act of doing that is enough. There's just like, this is just so much weirder and freakier to me than some guy gets taken over by Satan, but most of the time he just looks like a guy, you know?
Yep.
Until he decides to be threatening. And then he's covered in tattoos, which, like, I guess.
Yeah.
But, you know, if Satan could have done some, like, fire eyes, maybe that would have been a little bit more impressive. That's all I'm saying. His eyes turned red, but whatever.
Yeah, he's not all that creative, apparently. Yeah.
Just like a bad Twilight movie effect. So she is announcing to everybody, the captain, that they all have to stay away from him. But she's also, like, pretty resistant to the idea that he could have done this. It's a weird combination of things that's going on with her, because she's, like, really arguing that this is my husband, he would never do that. And also putting out this, like, warning and command in a very practical way.
Yeah.
That isn't, you know, she's not fighting what she's hearing so much that she's unwilling to, like, take precautions. And I really appreciated that, because at first I thought that she was just going to refuse to warn everybody because she just didn't want to believe it. And I was, like, not here for that at all. But I like that she is simultaneously struggling with this, but also being like, oh, but who knows, though? I better let them know, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Captain. And the doctor, who's trying to figure out what the fuck happened, at one point asks her, like, how did you, like, where did you get your fuel from? And she says, what is it, transport scoop? Something like that?
Something like that. Let me see if I can find it, because it's a little later, right?
I think it's a little bit later. But let's see. I'm trying to find the spot, yeah. Because she asks the doctor first, like, can my husband be cured? And he's like, at first trying to act like, well, I don't really know. And she tells him, listen, or he tells her, he's clearly, like, trying to save her feelings, you know? And she's like, just tell me the truth, because that was part of what drew me to him as a husband, was that he didn't try and, like, bullshit me. Mm-hmm. And he kept me honest, and I would like it if you would just tell me straight whether or not you're able to. And he finally is like, all right, then, he's gone. There is definitely no way that he's coming back from this. And I was like, do you regret asking for the truth now, lady? Because I wouldn't blame you if you were just a little bit like, oh, shit, I shouldn't even have asked. But she says at first that she's glad that he was honest with her. But once he tries to be like, what could have triggered this, she kind of retracts again and doesn't want to. It's clear she's hiding something, and he can tell, but she just doesn't want to be honest with him, despite everything that's happened and, like, potentially losing her husband. And I'm like, lady, what have you got to lose at this point? Just tell him. But she isn't.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I was trying to find if it ever said anything about what it was called, whether it was transport scoop or not. I can't find it in these notes, so I don't remember the exact term, but that's basically, they were pulling energy from the sun, I guess. Mm-hmm. Because the doctor says something like,
isn't that outlawed yet?
Yeah,
and
it is.
And the dudes, like, look at each other, and she says something like, well, not yet. But we find out that she's full of shit, and it definitely is.
And he also makes some comment about humans and how you never think about the consequences. You just do these things.
I didn't even catch that part. I wish I could find the spot where he says this to her, where he's talking to her about this. But yeah, it is. Everything is sort of, like, mixed up in the order that things are talked about here.
Yeah.
Because I feel like his asking her about the fuel situation is early on. So let's see. Oh, questions are randomly generated. Yada, yada, yada. I'm looking at the first scene where they're all figuring out exactly how to open up these doors.
Energy scoops. I found, you're right, it was earlier. He observes that they're in the Taraji system and that they're using energy scoops for fusion. He thought the scoops might have been outlawed by now, and Kath, who is the captain, assures him that they were due for an upgrade.
Right. Yeah, because she sort of gives her husband a look at this point. Or maybe it's Riley. Somebody that's standing near her.
It might be
kind of like
it might be
have a
Ashton.
moment. Okay.
The other guy.
Yeah.
Because I think at this point her husband's already infected.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. So yeah, this method, apparently for reasons like this, that you could just try and take shit from somebody that needs it and will be mad at you and will pull some shit to get it back.
Because this son is like sentient.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and it's essentially like they swooped down and stole all of the son's blood.
Right, or they
ran
just like,
off.
if you want to think of it like a scoop, they like scoop out part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like you just took a piece of this creature.
Yeah.
But because you don't realize it's a creature because you think, oh, it's just a star.
Yeah. Which is pretty wild. I like that whole idea. That it's a living being. It's very mythical.
Yeah.
And that's not something that I feel like this show has done before in that fashion. You know, it's always some sort of monster.
Right.
But for it to be something that's like, it exists in our world, but it's just a different type of that object. I like that.
And it would make you wonder, like, are there other planets or organisms out in the galaxy that we would say, oh, that's a nebula, or oh, that's a star, but it's sentient. It's got its own thoughts and feelings and needs.
Yeah. Yeah, and especially like having just done A Wrinkle in Time for the book club. Mrs. Whatsit, I believe, is the one that used to be a star and gave it up in order to fight the dark thing.
Huh.
So I like that tie-in as well, because it's sort of like this star could be doing some good if there weren't a bunch of asshole human beings just taking shit from it.
Right.
Maybe it's in the middle of a fight against the black thing. And
maybe
way to go, losers.
Maybe it's just angry because you came and you scooped part of it away.
That would also be perfectly valid. Yes. Yeah. So, okay. The doctor gets distracted because of Abby being killed, and he goes off to investigate that. Martha, I was about to say Abby, and then I was about to say Maggie. Martha is left alone with Riley, and this is when What's-His-Face comes upon them and chases them into the escape pod.
Yeah.
And it's actually pretty well done, this moment of her looking at the doctor because he realizes that something is wrong and comes and tries to stop it before it can take off, because there's a couple close calls where it looks like the pod's about to be released, but then they're able to stop it. But eventually the dude who is possessed, what's his name again? Calum?
Corwin.
Corwin. He just smashes it, and there is no way to reprogram it at that point.
Yeah.
So,
Ashton tries to override the system, but he can't stop them. He can't stop what's happening.
So the doctor just has to sort of watch helplessly as Martha is sucked out into the void.
You know what happens before that is that Corwin, he killed that one girl. He killed Abby, but then he killed that other girl. And then,
right. I forgot about that one that was bitching about having to do too much for this dude who was asking her to get him coffee.
Yeah. I don't think that's what he asked, but yes.
Well, she says that at some point.
Does she?
She's like, fetch this, get this, and then at one point it's just get me some tea or something like that, basically.
But then Corwin finds Ashton, and instead of killing him, he puts his hands on Ashton's head.
Right.
Which makes him begin to smoke a little bit. Mm-hmm. And then Ashton, who now has a helmet on, is the one who chases them.
Yeah, that's right. The helmet. I forgot about that. Yeah, because when he grabs his head, I thought his head was just going to burst into flames, and I was kind of excited. But nope, He just turns into another one of these guys. So...
Yeah, so when he tries to override the system, he's trying to send them into the sun.
Right. That makes sense. Get everybody. Get the whole family together. Give me my shit back. So yeah, the doctor just has to like watch her.
Yeah.
And he's yelling, "I'll save you," but she can't tell what he's saying. And also, him just standing there trying to say, "I'll save you," is there like, I really liked that for a moment, but I feel like it went on too long to a point where I was like, can you go do something about this?
Yeah.
Please? Like, guy?
If you're trying to get her to read your lips, you need to enunciate those words better.
Yeah, definitely. That as well.
Over-exaggerate the word you.
I will save you. Indeed. But I still liked that moment. Like it was just, I think what kind of made it effective for me is how slow moving the release of the pod is, and yet how there's absolutely nothing to be done to stop it. Yeah. You know? That was just sort of, there was like an inevitability and a dread with that I really liked. I feel like that was effective. So the doctor, against the wishes and advice of the dude whose name I also don't remember. I can't remember any of these characters' names. I don't know what's the matter with me today. He decides that he is going to go out there, and he has to reverse the pull on it. Am I right about this? Because there's like it's almost like there's something that's magnetic that will bring them back in.
He goes outside to magnetize the ship in order to pull the escape pod back from the sun.
Okay, that's what I thought. And he finally manages to do this, and before that's happened, Martha is in there talking to her mom, and she is just trying to have a nice last conversation because she's pretty sure she's going to die. And I really loved this because this felt like so relevant in a way that I don't even know if they meant it to. But I have, like, when my father died, it was a very unexpected thing. So I didn't have this sort of situation where you know somebody's going to go and you're trying to like come to terms with that. But I have talked to friends who had that, and it was like family members who they did not have a great relationship with. And they were attempting to make what repairs they could before that person passed on. And it doesn't often work.
Yeah.
Like there's a reason that you don't have a good relationship is because you and that person prioritize different things and care about each other in ways that aren't necessarily compatible with one another. So I really like this moment of her desperately trying to have something with her mother that she hasn't been able to have before. And no, her mother is not able to just do that, even though that's what Martha needs right now, because that's not who she is. And it's sort of tough, but also like, you know, and it's not like her mom's not trying, but she just doesn't understand exactly the situation either.
Well, I think it's not really that they don't have a good relationship. It's that right now, Martha is she's behaving differently than her mom is used to. So her mom is reacting in kind of an understandable way, minus the like poisoning of her mind from these other people. Like, what's going on with you? Mm-hmm. You just left your brother's party, and then you show up at this other party with this strange person. You're being dismissive. You're being secretive. This isn't like you. Mm-hmm. And so her mom is frustrated, and Martha can't tell her like, oh, by the way, I am billions of years in the future. I'm in this escape pod heading towards a sun. And I just want to say goodbye to you because I'm going to die and you're never going to know what happened. Martha can't be honest with her. So her mom, that like exacerbates her mother's frustration of like, what is going on with you? Why are you acting like this?
Yeah, I guess I don't know enough because, like, every time that I have seen her mother, it has not been good.
Right, but
I'm just assuming that it's always like that, but we haven't really seen her outside of the context of this whole thing.
Now, if you think about the first episode where we meet Martha, and she's spending all of this time sort of playing the go-between and playing the peacemaker with her various family members, it seems as though she's got a very good relationship with her mom. She's also trying to protect her mom's feelings by not having her dad's girlfriend be at this thing, and like they sort of established that early, but we don't get to see any interaction between them because we're just seeing Martha's side of the phone call, and then, Mom, I gotta go, that's Leo, and then she's talking to her brother, and then, oh, I gotta go, that's Dad, and she's just doing all of this, like, just trying to make everybody happy. And now all of a sudden she's just run off. And nobody understands what's going on with her. And her mom is, I think, understandably freaked out.
I wonder if she could have just said, I'm like billion years in the future and I'm heading towards the sun. Because like they just saw a giant weird roach monster that busted out of like a machine that revives people from the edge of death. So I feel like that's not totally out of the realm. And like, what have they told her mother about the doctor as
Nothing.
well? Because they're whispering something to her at the party.
Oh, what have they told her? I don't know. That's
Yeah.
the thing. Like, Martha hasn't told her mother anything. So all she's hearing is this negative stuff from these other people.
Which I want to know what that is. Are they telling her like he's a serial killer? Are they telling
I don't
her
know.
he's a like, some sort of madman that's a terrorist? Or are they telling her that he's like
An alien?
Yeah, like maybe if she said this, her mother would be like, "Oh, so you know he's an alien? I just thought you didn't know."
Right.
And
Right.
that would be kind of amusing to me.
It's one of those things where we as an audience are like, just tell her what's going on. It'll save you both a lot of trouble. And I don't know if this goes back to early Doctor Who, and so they just carried on with it without giving any explanation. Why the companions keep having to keep it secret from their families what's going on until they absolutely have to explain the situation. Because Rose kept it from Jackie too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's just impulse. Like when you're involved in something that seems this unlikely, you just figure people aren't going to believe you, so you may as well just keep that to yourself. Right.
But when you have family members who actually care about you and about your well-being, keeping that kind of secret just scares them more.
And like I said, if you've got family members who are all at a party where a giant bug monster busts out of a place and sucks all of the life out of a woman in front of your eyes, if they don't believe you, that sounds sort of like on them at that point.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
So Martha and Riley have this conversation about family and about like how he doesn't have anybody in his life to have faith in, because she's saying like she has faith in the doctor. And Riley he doesn't have family. His family is gone. He's got no romantic prospects or attachments. And then she calls her mom. But in the end, it's like Martha's so upset after this call, and so Riley comforts her, and they just sort of feel like they're going to die together. Riley seems very sweet.
Yeah, he does.
Not like an Adam, who would immediately go and like get a thing implanted in his head.
Oh, God, what a dumb. Forgot about that guy. Yeah, Riley would not hold with that kind of shit. Be a Riley, not an Adam. Tip for all you dudes out there.
He could apply that to Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but do you want to be a Riley? You definitely don't want to be an Adam in Buffy. But you don't really want to be a Riley either.
That season was such a mess. It was just like, God,
Season
there's
4,
so much I want to
guys.
say. Season 4 is like, it's one of those that I felt like there was so much potential, and then they just...
There's some greatness in that season. I mean, Hush is in that season.
Yeah.
And there's some really good stuff with Spike, but mostly that season's like, what are you guys doing?
Spike. I miss him.
Yeah.
All right, so the doctor manages to, like, remagnetize the thing and gets her pulled back in. But as he's waiting for this to return, this pod, he is staring at the sun, and it takes him over. Mm-hmm. And he realizes, he's yelling, "It's alive!" But manages to do it in a way that did not sound totally ridiculous. Like, it really... I know that the words are the same, and in some ways, even the inflection was the same, but it still didn't sound the same. Yeah. And I appreciated that he managed that, because that's tough. I've just, you know, when you get a script and you yell, "It's alive," like 3 times in a row, there has to be a little bit in you that's like, oh, God, how am I going to do this?
Yeah.
You know? And he is able to, because he's an alien, he can, like, stay within his mind, his right mind, throughout this. It's not like taking him down and burning through him the way that it was with everybody else who got taken over. So he can tell them exactly what it is that happened, which is that you fucking stole energy from a living thing. You stole part of its heart, basically.
Yeah.
And it wants it back. And because the other, like, people who were taken over were all telling the captain it's your fault. And she's out here acting like she has no idea what it could be. And I guess, well, stars being living things are not something that she's familiar with.
Yeah.
So.
And she says it takes too long to check for life.
Right.
And they would have been caught using the illegal fusion scoop or energy scoop, whatever.
And he says they scooped out its heart and used it for fuel, and now it's screaming. Which is a pretty wild line. I really like that. You humans grab whatever's nearest and bleed it dry.
That's what I was talking about.
Yeah. So yeah, she said it takes too long to scan. We'd be caught. And she keeps on defending herself as he's like, yeah, that shit's illegal, you know. But finally it comes down to, you are going to have to freeze me in the stasis chamber. And that's what's going to get this out of me. It needs to be below 200, which I'm imagining is Celsius, which is crazy cold.
Even Fahrenheit is crazy cold.
Yeah, I'm just going to look that up. Let's see. -200 Celsius to Fahrenheit. 328 below zero.
Wow.
Yeah. And the captain is just like, yeah, that is going to kill you. And she has to tell the captain he isn't human. It's going to be fine. If he says he's going to be fine, then he's going to be fine. But they keep getting fucking, what's the word I want? These meddling kids keep on ruining their plans because the power gets cut off before he has reached the temperature that he is supposed to. So it's still alive in him and he's still burning up. And they have to go and deal with that fucking problem. So the captain goes down there and jumps out the airlock with her husband.
Yep.
Which I actually like that.
Yeah, me too.
I thought that was it's both tidy because we need her to not only get out of the way, but be like do penance for her crime. Mm-hmm. You know, so jumping out the airlock, that feels fair to me.
He also tells Martha to get them to jettison the fuel, to get rid of all the fuel, because that'll return the particles back to the sun.
Yes, vent the engines and do a fuel dump. So yeah, she goes and tells them to do that, and thankfully they don't fucking like argue with her for 10 minutes about it. And as soon as they do that, everything starts to correct itself. Mm-hmm. And this like Siri voice that's been on the speakers this whole time. Life support systems reaching critical. Repeat. Life support systems reaching critical. Is finally like crash averted or impact averted or whatever it is. And there was something very reassuring about that. Strange robot lady tells me it's all going to be okay. I believe you, strange robot lady. Appreciate it. Thanks for being here. So yeah, this, like, there's a weird ending. Like, the doctor seems genuinely flipped out here. And, like, even afterwards, there's this scene where they say goodbye. They're able to, like, get back into the TARDIS because it's okay. Mm-hmm. And Riley stops Martha. And he's sort of like, yo, you want to get coffee or something? And she's like, thanks, but I got to go back in time. Appreciate it.
She kisses him, though.
Yeah, she kisses him and tells him, well done. Hot. They could have named this episode Hot Kiss.
Feeling hot.
Feeling hot, hot, hot. Oh, my God. This would be... I'm sorry. I need to stay on task. So... She gets in there, but the doctor has this look on his face. Like, he is really, like, haunted by what happened.
Well, wouldn't you be?
I mean, yeah, but I'm a person. He's somebody who has, like, really gone through a lot of shit. So for him to be as, like, wigged out by this as he is, makes me feel like there's other, perhaps, consequences that I don't know about.
Maybe he thought he was actually going to die. Maybe
he did. Like... I feel like he's knowing that you're going to regenerate. You have to be able to shrug this sort of thing off usually, right? Like, oh yeah, I almost died, but I always regenerate, so whatever.
Well, maybe he likes this being this version of who he is. When he regenerates, he's going to be someone else. Still himself, but someone else.
I also was thinking, because, what is it that kills... the first Doctor again, or not, the first, but the ninth one. I forgot how he died.
He took on all the energy that Rose had taken out of the time vortex. He takes that on because it was going to kill her. So he gets it out of her by kissing her, and then takes it on, and it causes him to regenerate because it's just too much energy.
So his body dies and is laying on the floor and then gets back up again as a different dude.
Yeah.
So if you burn up and your body basically vaporizes into nothingness.
I would imagine there's no regeneration.
Yeah, I feel like that's the exception there.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It would be interesting to hear him actually talk about it, but he refuses to do that.
Well, he did.
Sort of
he did try to tell her that when I die, there's this thing that happens, and she's like, "You're not going to die."
Yeah, but I'm talking about later when she asks him, "Are you okay?"
Sure.
And he just doesn't want to talk about what he went through or like.
No, he deflects like he normally does. Starts talking about like, "Hey, why don't we go ice skating next? Sounds fun, right?"
Mm-hmm. And she gets a look on her face like, this is clearly to her, him being able to tell her this stuff is something that would mean a lot to her.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard in some ways to watch this relationship because he's not giving her what she wants emotionally, but then he gives her a key to the TARDIS. And she sort of takes that as another type of vulnerability.
I'm going to bring this back to Friends, as I do. There's an episode where Ross is dating, I think it's in season 9, dating this girl, and they take a picture at Rockefeller Center, and she's like, "Oh, it's like a holiday card. We should send out holiday cards." And he's all freaked out about that because they've only been dating a couple of months, and that's something that like married people do. And then she wants to have a conversation, like, well, where are we? Like, what are we doing here? Where is this going? And he's all freaked out about having to have this conversation that he's asking, like, for suggestions. Like, what else could I give her other than the holiday card? Like, what else could we do? And I think Phoebe recommends giving, or maybe it's Monica, a key to his apartment. He's like, no, we're not there, surely, if we're not doing the card. And that's what this reminds me of. Like, the doctor's like, Martha clearly wants to have, like, the conversation of, like, what is going on here? Mm-hmm. Why won't you open up to me? And he's like, hey, here's a key. Here's a key to my apartment.
Yep.
So now you understand where we're at, right? Because I gave you a key to my apartment?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that feels right. Yeah, and it's sort of like, I want so much for her to, like, let this go. I don't want her to be feeling about him the way that she is clearly feeling about him. And I think he knows that she feels this way about him and is trying to deflect from that.
Yeah.
But he just doesn't want to let her go either. This is a very Bella Jacob sort of situation, actually.
This is a very, my first, like, serious relationship where he was like, I like you a ton. I love you, but not in the way you love me. But you're my best friend, and I want to spend all my time with you, but I don't want to be your boyfriend.
Yeah. Yeah, that feels right. Because it's just like, I get where she's coming from on, like, as much as I would not be interested. He is what he is, and that's fascinating, and she's very intelligent, and I'm sure, like, just the idea of somebody who has such a complete handle on so much that's outside of her realm of anything, that's just gonna be alluring. There's, like, no getting around that. Mm-hmm. But this feels like the slow burn towards inevitable heartbreak, that there will be she's gonna feel like she was sort of led on, and that's not really what happened, but it's going to be, we all know that he seems aware of how she feels and is just sort of hoping that she'll drop it, and there's no real reason for her to do that. So I feel like it's sort of the plausible deniability is gone there, where he can't just be like, oh, I had no idea you were expecting something else. I didn't know you felt that way. But you did, though. Yeah. And you just wanted to keep her around for your own reasons. So you decided that you would give her just enough to keep her hopes up because you were aware and were afraid she was just going to bounce if she realized that this wasn't going to happen. So, I don't know. Anyway, that's where I'm at with that.
And then we have the scene with her mom talking to her again. Mm-hmm. Martha asks what day it is. Probably so that she can, have a place to have the doctor return her to so she can actually fulfill this promise. Yeah. Oh, what day is it? And it's election day. And Martha says that she'll be around for tea, roughly. Mm-hmm. And then they hang up and we see that her mom, whose name is Francine, her phone is being tapped again, and they take her cell phone and ask if she's voted. Mm-hmm. And she's like, yeah, but I'm not going to say who I voted for.
Which, the fact that she just says election day, this feels like it must be a big deal election. This doesn't feel like a local thing. Right. So I'm very curious about
what's their biggest deal in England? Is it Prime Minister? Is that their biggest election? Right? Yeah. And the last Prime Minister we saw was Harriet Jones, mm-hmm. who the doctor ruined that for her.
Yeah. Thanks for nothing, Doc. You suck. I'm still bitter about that. She was right. I'm just saying. It's fine.
It's fine. Everything's fine. It's fine.
Everything's fine. Whatever. Maybe it's Mr. Saxon. Maybe he's a Cyberman who's running for Prime Minister.
Maybe.
Maybe he's a Dalek hybrid. Maybe he's a Time Lord. Maybe he is the Doctor from the future.
Oh.
Bouncing back around again.
That would be something.
Maybe he's... Oh my god, what if he's like Mickey? And Mickey's just really trying to find the doctor and have adventures again because he misses it. It's not sinister. He's just looking for a good time.
Be a
Not
little
that
tough
way.
being stuck in another dimension without any way of getting through.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I don't know. All right. Well, do you have anything you want to add to this, ma'am? Because I feel like we're pretty much at the end of that.
And no, I don't have any interesting trivia about this episode that actually could be shared because a lot of it alluded to later stuff.
Ah, gotcha.
And we don't have any new reviews, guys. What's going on?
Gasp. Gasp. Hiss. Is that right?
Boo hiss.
Oh, right, yeah. That's the one. Well, fine. I guess I just will keep my gasps to myself. Now, I haven't read New Patrons in a minute, and I would, but something is up with the Patreon website today. So I am not able to access them for whatever reason. But I just want you all to know that I love you. And if you became a patron recently, I appreciate it. Big hugs from me. You're great. And, come up and hang out in the group because the patrons group is real busy and real fun.
Yep.
And there's also a off-topic group for patrons. So if you feel like sharing stuff that does not have anything to do with the show, you can do that in the off-topic group. And there's lots of cute animal pics and political diatribes.
Yes.
Which pretty much mirrors my own personal feed as well.
Same.
Yeah. So I feel like there was an announcement that I wanted to make. Oh, I just wanted to let everybody know that Rashawn and I are going to be doing a fundraiser in August. It's going to be on August 12th. She's going to be visiting for LeakyCon in Dallas. And we have both been really fucked up over what's going on at the border and feeling kind of helpless. And we have decided to do a fundraiser for something called Project Corazon, which is a project led by Lawyers for Good Government. And it is meant to help get lawyers who have not got the resources to travel down to the border and stay in a hotel and all of that, gives them access to all of that, all of those resources, so that they can give representation to immigrants who otherwise would not have anybody in their corner at all. Mm-hmm. And it's just a sort of project that I had originally been looking to do something where we could pay for bail, but it turns out they're not letting anybody out on bail anymore. So that's just not a fucking thing.
I think that recently got overturned.
Did it?
There's something.
'Cause I was just looking at that a couple days ago. So unless it was in the last day or two.
It was. There was something I
Okay.
saw about how they cannot be, a judge overturned that, they can't be held indefinitely.
Okay, cool. Well, in any case,
Regardless, that's still a huge fucking problem down there.
yeah, the representation would still be key.
Yeah.
For bail as well. So Rashawn and I are going to be marathoning all day on August 12th, which is a Monday, all three John Wick movies, because Rashawn has never seen them before. She has never seen a single solitary one.
My main question is, are you positive the third one will be available by
Yes.
then? Okay.
I have my ways. Just shh. Don't ask any questions. Nobody ask any questions.
Through
Let's all
method.
just,
Things come out so fast that by then it may actually just be out on Blu-ray.
Yeah, it might, because they said sometime in August.
Mm-hmm.
And that's our fundraiser's early enough in August that it might, but we'll see. But I'm really excited because the fact that she hasn't seen any of them, I didn't know. And when I found that out, I was just I get basically what I call podcast eyes, which is where two giant microphones appear instead of pupils. And I just clap my hands together and go, oh my goodness.
So are you going to be watching and live recording? Or
Yeah, we're going to be streaming it to Facebook Live.
the whole 6 hours?
Yes. It's more than that. It's about 6 hours in total, but we're going to take a half-hour break in between each of the movies. But the only thing that I'm a little bit concerned about, and if anybody who knows about tech has an answer to this, hit me up and let me know. I know that there have been people who like did things like this, and they had ways of sort of scrambling occasionally whatever it was that they were live watching, so that the copyright issue wasn't something that they were going to be in trouble for, because Facebook will automatically detect whether or not I'm listening or watching something. And sometimes they will like cut me off. I had that happen when I was like live watching Game of Thrones a couple of times. Even though I'm not showing the picture, and even though I'm talking over it a bunch, and it's not like people are using my feed to like watch rather than just fucking downloading it somewhere, they just try to cover their ass. So I'm just interested if anybody knows of a method for sort of thwarting that. Let me know, because I just don't want to constantly be dealing with them booting us off.
Yeah. I don't know anybody who has done like a watching something on Facebook so much as like Juliet, who is a patron, has a like review show that she does, but she posted on YouTube, and she was covering Band of Brothers, and what she would do is she would record herself watching it, and she would cut in some like little snippets of scenes. But she said, like, in order to not get it taken down by HBO, she was limited to a certain amount of time of their footage that she could show.
Yeah.
And that was, she edited that in afterwards, but she would record herself watching it. It just wasn't, she wasn't recording herself live. So I don't know, but she may know. You might want to reach out to her. She might have some knowledge about how you could do it so that maybe the volume doesn't air with you or something.
Well, yeah, I'm going to have to look into it, because I know like the guys from Bald Move did this, but they used Twitch. And I have tried to like figure out how to set that up, and it just fucking baffles me. Both of them, I think, are in like computer engineering as a job. So they just, they know how to handle shit. I don't know how to handle shit, everybody, just FYI. If you come at me and you're like, well, you can just upload a code into the, and I'm like, immediately my brain shuts down, and I'm just like, lol.
Like
what?
me with math.
Yeah, there you go. It's like that.
Yeah.
So, anyway, but yeah, you can hit me up, facebook.com/unspoiledpod, Twitter @unspoiledshow, Instagram @unspoiledpodcast, or unspoiledpodcast@gmail.com. And, yeah, give me your info if you know of some tips. But I'm excited about that. And then after, Rashad and I are going to be doing... Oh, yeah. It's tons of shooting in the head. It's going to be great. And then afterwards, she and I are going to be doing a live crowdcast, recorded podcast. And that one I will be posting as a thank you, because everybody helped to buy me a computer, and you guys are amazing. And I can't tell you how wonderful it is to be using this much better machine. It's just night and day, y'all. I wish that I could show you in like real-time video how long it used to take to like convert and upload files, and now it's done in like 5 minutes, and I'm just tickles me.
The live crowdcast that you're doing is about what?
That's at the end of the night about the John
Wick. Okay.
Yeah. So that's going to be like 8 p.m. We're going to start our watch somewhere around like 12:15, and just basically go and get drunk probably. So get ready for all of us to make very little sense once we finally get to the crowdcast 7-8 hours later.
Is Owen doing this with you guys?
No, probably not. I think he's gonna have to work.
Oh.
But yeah, it's gonna be sloppy. So
good times.
Get ready for that. My Dresden Files recordings and my Harry Potter recordings can also get sloppy, because those are at night. But I record with Jamie at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So I don't get drunk or stoned when I'm doing these with you.
Not yet.
So anybody who only listens to Unspoiled Doctor Who is missing out a little bit on... you haven't seen Tangents, my friend. That's all I'm saying.
If anybody is planning on coming to Atlanta to go to Dragon Con at the end of August, please let me know, because it has, as I've said before, been announced that David Tennant's going to be there, Catherine Tate's going to be there, and I just saw that Freema aka Martha, is also going to be there.
Oh, I'm so jelly.
Yeah.
I'd love to meet her. I would also really like to meet Jim Butcher, who is going to be there, although I've heard that he's kind of a jerk, but
Yeah.
I've heard that. I don't know. No, don't come at me, everybody.
I don't know anything about him. Devin tagged me in a story about it, and I was like, yeah, I've never read those books, but if you guys want, I'll go and sit in on the panel as long as it doesn't conflict with another thing I want to do that day. Mm-hmm. And report back, because none of the information will mean anything to me, but I can report it back. I have bought my passes for the 4 days, so actually they're 5-day passes, but I won't be going to the first day because that's just like at night.
Damn, it's a 5-day long con.
Yeah,
right.
It's Thursday through Monday, and I have my passes. I am very excited about a lot of things that are happening there, and I think Krista has been working with them on sort of diversifying their podcast panels.
Cool.
So I don't have any details yet, but there's a possibility that we might be doing something.
Ooh, that'd be awesome.
I'm not super thrilled about it because I have performance anxiety and I'm shy, but I'll do it for you guys. I'll do it.
I'll tell you what, I was like nervous before doing the LeakyCon panel, and then you just get such good energy from the crowd. But then sometimes you don't get good energy from the crowd, as Money will attest, because we did a panel that people just did not seem to be like vibing with. And that was weird. But I think you're probably going to be in good hands there.
Yeah.
And you sort of feed off of it a little bit, you know?
Yeah. I might have to do a little drinking to get my courage up, but
anybody would. Except for Krista.
Except for Krista. But Krista's an extrovert. She's very outgoing and talkative and not nervous. I mean, she was a lawyer. Like, she's not nervous talking in front of people, where I am. So hopefully I feed off of people's energy. So hopefully just being around her would encourage me to, like, let some of my, like, initial, you know, talking in front of a crowd anxiety go away.
Well, that'll be awesome. Yeah, keep us posted on that.
I will.
I wish I could go. That'd be fun.
I wish you guys could come. I really wanted, like, for there to be an unspoiled convergence on this con this year, because I thought that would be really great. But we'll have to try to work it out. It's every year, like the last weekend of August. So
yeah, at this point, I'm kind of like, all of my plans are, I used to be like, well, maybe next year. And now I can't do that because next year's the wedding. So I'm like, well, maybe
Right.
2021.
maybe
I have to push it off again.
someday.
Someday. All right, guys. Well, thank you all so much for listening and hope you enjoyed the show. We will see you again next week with a new episode. Toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.